Today's objective: I can find the area or perimeter of an irregular shape by decomposing and applying the formula. So today, again, we're looking at area and perimeter, but our focus is going to be on irregular shapes. So those are shapes made out of right angles, but they're not regular squares or rectangles. They look more like this or this. Or even this. Two strategies that we use are applying the formula and decomposing the shape. So when we're talking about decomposing the shape, we're breaking these irregular shapes into smaller pieces that are more familiar. Like here we can make two rectangles. Here we can make a rectangle and a square. And over here we can make several rectangles. Find the area and perimeter of this irregular shape. So in this problem, we're looking for the area and the perimeter of this irregular shape. So when we look at our anchor charts, we're focusing on perimeter and area. Next, let's look at our area and perimeter steps to solve. Step 1, we want to draw a visual and label all sides. So when I'm looking at this problem, we already have a visual drawn. Next, we need to see if all the dimensions are labeled. So we want to make sure we have a side length for each side on this shape. So we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sides labeled. So we are missing this side length here, so I'll put a question mark, and we can use the side lengths around it to help us solve for the missing piece. So if I know that this side length is 10, I'm looking from here to here for my missing side length. If I look above here, I know that from here to here, we've got 2 inches. Same for over here. From here to here, we've got 2 inches. And this is our missing part. If I know the whole length is 10, I can take away these 2 side lengths. So 10 minus 2 is 8. 8 minus 2 is 6. So my missing part here, or my missing side length, is 6. We can add these 3 up again to check to make sure they equal 10. All right, 2 plus 6 is 8. 8 plus 2 is 10, so that adds up. Next, we'll go ahead and clear this out so we have room to solve. We'll add in our 6 inches for our missing side length. Okay, now back to our steps to solve. Our visual is drawn, and now all of our sides are labeled. My next step, area or perimeter, write the formula. So again, in this problem, we're solving for both the area and the perimeter. We'll put area up here. Area equals length times width And I'll put my perimeter down here. Perimeter equals, well, our normal formula for perimeter is for only 4 sides. Length plus width plus length plus width. But like we talked about in the beginning of this problem, we actually have 8 side lengths. So we're just going to add up all the side lengths, all 8 of them, to solve for perimeter. So we're going to go ahead and plug in those side lengths. Let's check off each length as we add it so we don't forget any. So we'll start with 8 plus 2 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 2 plus 8 plus 10. Now I've got all side lengths plugged in. We can go ahead and add to solve for perimeter. So 8 plus 2 is 10. 6 plus 6 is 12. 6 plus 2 is 8. 8 plus 10 is 18. Keep adding. 10 plus 12 is 22. 8 plus 18 is 26. And 22 plus 26 is 48 inches. All right, so we've got perimeter solved. I'm going to put our answer up here. Perimeter equals 48 inches. I'm going to go ahead and clear out this perimeter work so that we have plenty of space to solve for area. Okay, so just to recap, when we were solving for perimeter of this irregular shape, we did not have to decompose the shape. All we had to do was find our missing side length and add all the side lengths together to find perimeter. Now, when we are solving for area, this is when we need to decompose our shape into smaller shapes so that we can apply our area formula. So we need to break this irregular shape, decompose it down into 4-sided shapes, so just rectangles and squares. Okay, so let's go ahead and decompose this shape. So I'm going to split this into 3 different rectangles. Here's my first one. Down here will be my second, and then our third. So now I've got 3 4-sided shapes. Next thing we need to do is go ahead and fix these side lengths. So I'm going to label this our first rectangle, our second rectangle, and our third. So first we're going to look at our first rectangle. So my side length up here 2, that's fine, that's the same. If I know this side length is 2, then I also know its opposite side length is also 2. So I'm going to label 2 here. Now when we look at our side lengths on this side, I see 8 inches and 6 inches. Well, this isn't correct, right? We know that our opposite sides are going to be congruent. They should be the same length. So I need to figure out, is this 8 inches or 6 inches? So before we decomposed our shape, this whole side length is 8. Well, when we broke it down, we took off this part right here. So we're going to use 6 inches because nothing changed for this side length. We're just going to cross out 8 inches and make it 6. Okay, So for my first rectangle, we've got our length is 6 and our width is 2. Now let's take a look at our second rectangle. Down here, this side length is 10. If I know that this is 10, I also know the opposite side is 10. So we're going to ignore this 6. And replace it with 10 because now we're looking at this whole side length, not just the part in between. So this whole side length is also 10. Now I need to find this missing side length here. So before we decomposed it, we knew that this whole side length was 8. But now we've decomposed it, so I need to figure out what my two pieces are. Well, I know that from here to here is 6 inches. I know the whole side length is 8, so now I just need to find this missing piece. So I can take my whole 8 and take away the one piece I know, 6, to find my missing part. So 8 minus 6 is 2. That tells us that this side length is 2. And then now that I know that side length is 2, I know its opposite side length is also going to be 2 inches. Okay, now looking at our third rectangle. I know that this side length is 2, so its opposite side is also going to be 2. I know that this side length is 6, so its opposite side length is also going to be 6. So now we've got our regular shape decomposed into 3 different rectangles. Now I'm ready to solve for area. So we need to find the area for all 3 of these rectangles that we made and then add them all up to find the total area. Okay, so we'll find our first area here. So my first rectangle, formula for area is area equals length times width. We'll solve for our second rectangle. Again, area equals length times width. And our third rectangle, okay, next up we're just going to plug in our dimensions for each to solve. So for my first rectangle, we'll plug in our dimensions. Area equals, my length is 6, my width is 2, 6 times 2 equals 12. Alright, so our area for the first triangle is 12 square inches. Moving on to my second rectangle. Plug in our dimensions. My length is 2. My width is 10. Solve 2 times 10 is 20. So the area for my second rectangle is 20 inches squared. Moving on to the third rectangle. Plugging in our dimensions. My length is 6. My width is 2. 6 times 2 is 12. So we've solved for the area of all 3 of our rectangles. Now we just need to add all 3 up to find our total area. So I'm going to stack and add. Our first area was 12 plus 20 plus 12. So we're just adding up our 3 areas to find the total area. All right, when we add those up, we get an area of 44 square inches. All right, to wrap this up, we solved for our perimeter. We added up all of our side lengths to get 44 inches, And then we solved for our area, 44 square inches. Awesome job, 4th grade. Go ahead and take out a paper, a pencil, and move to the next video to solve with me.